Well, I'm back out in the shop. It's been a while, I know, but I've been working. I just haven't been filming. Because you see here, that's oddly all together, yet that's oddly all still apart. I actually got this together to go to the Mama Tried bike show, where if I can find my thing here, look at that. That was the plaque that was on display by the bike. It was the it's an invite only bike show, custom builder bike show thing, which is pretty cool. You have to kind of like, you apply, you know, you send them like your info, what you have, what you've done, what you've built, whatever, and then they pick 100 bikes and they go in the Mama Tried bike show. And the venue this year, as last year as well, was at the Rave Eagles Club in Milwaukee, and it's super cool building. And I'll put some pictures in here so you can see kind of how that all looked. But it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I was pretty stoked to be part of that. Everybody sees that show as kind of a chopper Harley based show, just fine, but that's not what they the event promoters don't they don't promote it as just that. It's a custom bike, custom builder show. It's anything. They had said one time that they don't get a lot of metric bike submissions. When I had heard that, I'm like, I'm going to get on that and I'm going to see what happens here. Because I thought it would be cool to have in generally a chopper Harley crowd to see how well something like this right here, how well that goes over. And I was honestly pretty stoked on how well it was received. There was a few other sport bikes there that some dude out of Milwaukee put in the show that were just whatever stock bikes. I don't know why they were there. That kind of took a little bit of the shine off for me, but whatever. I was there. Yeah, people were digging it. A lot of conversation, a lot of pictures. I had a little time slip sitting in the windscreen, so there was all kinds of people coming up taking pictures of the time slip, which I thought was pretty cool. And I didn't do that as like a brag moment. I did that as more of a relate moment. There's a lot of drag racing on TV these days, and not a lot of people talking numbers. So I thought if I put a time slip in the windscreen, even people that aren't really into drag racing could relate that to something that they've heard of. You know, my buddy's car does this, or I saw on TV that a car does that. It was just kind of a reference thing, and I think people were pretty stoked on how fast it goes, which is cool. But the point of this video is I'm getting going on this motor. I decided I'm going to be a cheap miser, and this thing is going back together as cheap as possible. And to the point of, I'm going to replace that one piston still. I still got to get a ring pack. It's been a while since I've focused on this stuff because I've been busy on all of that stuff. But I am going to get a ring pack for those pistons, and I still got to get exhaust valves for that head, and what else? I got to go through a few other things, but anyway, I started putting this motor back together. So I'm going to switch angles here so I can show you what's going on. So here's where we're at. This stuff over here, this is all uncleaned as it came out of the motor. So I got to go through the bottom half. I'm going to pull the trans apart completely, go through, look for worn dogs and stuff. My pistons and rods, everything's good. Swap that one piston out, get rings. Bearings. This is where I'm going to cheap out. I was originally going to order all new bearings. Then I realized that I've never really damaged a set of bearings on this motor, and I don't know how long. And I've constantly put new bearings in. So every time this thing gets a freshen up, the old bearings come out and I would save them. New bearings go in. Well, I decided this time, instead of putting new bearings in just to save these and reuse them at some other point, I'm going to reuse them now, because I'll show you. Here, this crank I'm actually working on polishing. I'm going to show you a cool little trick for polishing a crank. I'm not polishing it up like super fine, you know, kick-ass polish job. More or less, I go through and polish because that will show you if there's any nicks or imperfections in the journals. They'll show up a lot easier than, you know, the whatever oil, the wear pattern. You'll see little imperfections, but we'll get that all spit shined up nice and clean. But this is ready to go back together, and that there is ready to go back together, because I'm gonna eventually, I got bearings in there, I'm gonna finish cleaning up this, and then that's gonna go in there. That's gonna get those bearings there, and then that is gonna go on top of that. And that's my project for this evening, possibly. We'll see. That might be next video that I finish it up, because believe it or not, I love working on this stuff, but sometimes the filming slows down my motivation. So when I get jamming, I get jamming. That's why none of that got filmed. I was just working away. I was on a time crunch. But yeah, so check out these bearings. See if I can get a light in here for you. That's why I'm reusing these things. There's literally nothing wrong with them. You can still see the real fine, these bearings when they're new, you can see they'll be real fine, I don't know if you'd call them serrations or lines, almost like oil retention grooves in the bearing. They're still in there. So we're going to reuse these things. Nothing wrong with them. Going back in, even the rod bearings. Just dandy. So this is going to be sort of a test, because people are afraid of motor work. It's bad juju. They're afraid it's some black science. I'm going to show you that, you know, this could bite me in the ass. I can put this thing together and it could shit a rod out first pass. We don't know. Shit goes wrong. But anyway, I'm going to show you that you can, on a budget, you can put some shit together and basically run sevens. If you have a turbo and all that good stuff and make power. But anyway, you can do this. Those cases even, those are freaking, look how dirty stained they are. The thing had a battery explode on the bike that those came out of. And those are old eBay cases. There's been nothing special done to those. Same with the crank. That's the eBay crank. That's an eBay head. But anyway, we're gonna get going on putting this together, and we're gonna see if I can't get through this whole next season on used bearings, because I don't see why those bearings have been in this motor for 3 years. This motor actually came apart one time to fix. I broke first gear on this thing. Long story. It was in the pits. But anyway, I did split these cases once to do the trans, or replace the gear, and I did a bearing inspection. I pulled rod caps, and I pulled the case apart just to look at bearings, and that's why it went back together. So now this is going to be season number 4 on these bearings we're going to start with, and we'll see what happens. But for now, enough talky. Let's get to polishy. So I'm going to show you my little trick I do. It's not even a trick, it's just what I do. I mean, I didn't learn this shit on my own. Watch other people do stuff. I learned this from somebody, and now you're going to learn it from me. So pay attention. Watch, would you? So this journal here, I'm going to show you what I do. This may not be new news, but if you haven't done it this way before, to just give a little touch up on these journals, this will make your life a lot easier. So what I got here, some really fine emery cloth. There's just enough grit to that to maybe take a little bit of the glaze off, or that was the wrong word to use, not take the glaze off, but to take any imperfections out, we'll say, and put a little shine on there. So what I'm going to do is I prefer to just kind of wet this a little bit, so we'll just get a little spritz of some brake clean. I got some paracord here. You need probably about, maybe a 3-foot piece. So take this emery cloth, wrap it around that journal. Any direction is fine. I'll take your paracord, lay it in there, wrap it around 3 or 4 times. You want to wrap it around enough that you cover a little bit of the surface area of the journal so that the paracord doesn't, you'll see what I'm going to do, but so the paracord itself doesn't jump off the sides of the sandpaper or the emery paper. We got 2 wraps there. Filming and doing this is awkward, but you'll get the gist of it. So there, I got 3 wraps. This crank's gonna want to roll on me here. Let me get this changed. There we go. Try that. So now I got 2 ends of the paracord coming off this. And what I'm going to do, it's just like a pull start for a lawnmower. Actually, I'm going to go 1 more wrap because of just what happened right there. It got stuck. There. That ought to be enough. So sort of like a pull cord on a lawnmower. Pull one way, pull the other way. And you get a constant 360-degree rotation on that emery cloth. And that'll put a little polish on there. Clean up any little imperfections. It'll expose any imperfections. Usually the ones it exposes are a little more major than the ones it cleans up. Just go back and forth. I'm not using a lot of pressure, I'm just using enough to get it to spin. Pull off paracord. With the emery paper. Hit a little brake clean. See what we get. That's pretty good. Like I said, there was no real damage to this crank as it was. I'm looking for damage. I dig it. So that's my crank polishing technique. If this was a pretty well-worn used crank, maybe had some crap go through a journal, score up something, I would use something a little more aggressive than this. But for what I'm doing, we're basically just shining her up a little. So that'll work just fine. So now I'll finish up the journals on this, and then we're going to fit it into the cases. And I'm actually, even though this all came apart previously, I'm going to recheck clearances. So if there's an issue that was starting, we'll find it. So bear with me for that. So after all that, there's my polished up crank, and pretty happy with that. Most of this is, like I said, I'm looking for things, but you don't find things if you don't touch every piece and look at every part. So a lot of what I'm doing here is it's mental. Not mental as in mental. It's mental as in it's in my head that I have to touch everything. It has to be slightly better than it came apart. So by me running over those things with some emery cloth, and cleaning them all up, it's better than it came out of the motor. So that's my, my mental mind game I'm doing here. But like I said, there's no black magic to this. There's dudes that do this for a living that are really, really good at it, and they're worth paying. They will make more power than what I'm doing. I'm not those dudes. I'm not going to claim to be those dudes. I'm a dude in a garage that doesn't have a pot to piss in, hence used bearings, to pay one of those dudes to do this. So I'm going to keep doing this because it's easier on my wallet, and it's freaking fun to learn and to say when I'm at the track, yeah, I just freaking threw it together. It's a stock whatever with eBay this and used that. This is my joy. So racing this will never be the fastest bike at the track or anywhere else. It's fast to me, and as long as I make it go faster than it went the last time it went out, that's my only goal. So that's the whole point of all of this. Everything you see here, all this crap, it's just to go faster than I did yesterday. But I'm going to go ahead and start checking clearances. I'm probably going to end this video here, so I'll do another video on getting the crank in that. But it's getting late in the garage, and I'm going to go get some dinner. So thanks for hanging around, and tune in next time, and we'll get this motor buttoned up. And hopefully we'll get all this stuff buttoned up too. Thanks for watching. I got ambitious and decided to start putting that crank in. So if you don't have a dial bore gauge set, I highly recommend getting yourself one, even if it's a cheap one for now, and learn how to use it. Invaluable. Get a dial bore gauge set, and you'll know exactly what your bore is, which bearing, you can do case bore, bearing bore, and then measure your crank journal diameter. You can use a mic for that. If you don't know how to read a mic, I highly suggest getting one and learn how to use that. But yeah, mic the bore, or I'm sorry. Well, technically, dial bore gauge on the bores, and then mic the journal diameters. Do your math. There's your clearance. I could do a video on that, but it's kind of a drawn out, monotonous process. It's not hard. It's hard to show. I can if you want, but I'm going to just keep pushing forward on this. But for now, that checks out good. All my bearings are actually in the cases. I was actually looking over here for them. I was kind of lost. Bearings are all in, ready to go. All my clearances came out. I don't know if I should even say what I run for clearances, because no matter what I do, people will talk shit. There's no winning in this. But I'll just say I run my bearing clearances bigger than what the manual says you should run. I'll leave it at that. Obviously you see what the bearings look like after 3 seasons of beating this shit with boost. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Everything fell back into my spec, so we're gonna go with it. But yeah, so let's get this crank in. I gotta do some case sealer. If you're ever doing cases, always get yourself some Honda Bond, Yamaha Bond. I don't know if Kawa Bond or Suzuki Bond, whatever. I don't know if they exist. All I've ever used is Honda Bond. Stuff works amazing. You can use silicone. I don't recommend it. That stuff never really seems to cure up good. You'll end up with a bunch of extra shit floating around the cases, and when you got to pull the motor down, you'll spend twice as much time cleaning it up. This Honda Bond cleans up in seconds. It's super nice to work with, so I highly recommend. Find it, get a couple tubes, Amazon it, whatever you got to do. Use that. Save yourself a headache. But onto the crank. It's going in. So this is what I use for assembly lube, Lucas oil. Stuff is like snot. It's pretty damn good, and I've obviously not had an issue. And the stuff will sit around forever. So if this motor is going to sit on a bench for a while, this is the stuff I want in there. There's all kinds of secret recipes people use. This is just some off-the-shelf stuff. Had good luck with it. Gonna go with it. You might have saw me. Yeah. Move this up a little bit. You might have saw me when I was doing the glare. Get rid of that. Anyway, you might have saw when I was putting the sealer around the cases, I would go through and dab my finger all the way across it. All I'm doing is making sure that it is definitely there, fully covered on that whatever surface might be, and it just kind of thins it out, creates little peaks, kind of raises it all up a little bit, so when I set the other case half down, that'll actually have something to compress. I don't run real thick beads. You don't want the stuff oozing out everywhere. Like I said, it's part of what I'm doing with my fingers. I'm dabbing it down, and it's just the thinnest of coatings to keep these things from leaking. Like I said, that Honda Bond stuff, if it's there, it won't leak. So if you get an oil leak between cases, you didn't do something right. That stuff works good. But we'll do some assembly lube on the bearings, and then we're going to drop these case halves together. So now this is where you're going to want to make sure you got everything on your cases that's going to have to be there. Like this motor has an O-ring here. There's a plug here, and we want to make sure we got all of our doubles here, here, and back here. And after that, we're ready to clamp this thing together. So I just stopped mid-torque there because I was going to start doing something. Realized I wasn't going to tell you what I was doing. I bring everything up in stages. First stage, click, 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 all the way around. Second stage, click, click, click. We're done. But as I'm doing the second stage, every journal I do, I'll rotate the crank and make sure that it's still free. That's where you'll find out if, for whatever reason, you got a tight bearing. Maybe there's some flex going on in the cases that when everything is torqued together, they're not staying true. Anything that might bind up, you'll find when you're torquing the crank down. So I'll do the regular torque sequence, but every main that gets done, I'll check the crank. Next one, check the crank, just all the way around. So I just want to explain before I started doing that, and you didn't see, or I didn't tell you what I was doing there. But another little trick. So there we go. One used, half bottom end reassembled. You can see I run good studs. I run a stud or a case girdle, a main girdle, and then it's probably too late to show you. So we get a flashlight in there. Down there you can see those two screws? Those are where the oil squirters used to go. I don't run oil squirters, and I don't pinch them off, because you can get rid of them for drag racing, and if you pinch them off, there's still a chance that they're just like a brazed on tube. There's a chance them can come off and go tumbling in the motor. So I take the two holes and tap them, Loctite, 2 bolts, every hole, same way. Yeah. Anyway, just one of the tricks you can do to 1000 to make them live a little longer. That'll increase oil pressure to the rest of the motor, because you don't have a controlled oil leak in the bottom end. So that's that. Next video, hopefully we'll be doing some trans work. I got to go through all that. And actually, before I put the trans in, next video, I lied, next video will be rods and pistons, reorganizing that stuff with used bearings. And I just got to get some rings coming. So as soon as I locate those, we'll do that. So thanks for watching this time.